Ah, noble houses. A good noble house should look like something out of the secret lives of Mormon wives, ever increasing drama over increasingly minute issues that thousands have an interest in. Except instead of mere morbid curiosity propelling that interest, it's fear that Duke Sid the Syphilitic's insult of Count Abratholomew the One-Toothed's hairline will result in a war that will see both sides' peasant population decimated by mutual raids. Really, any drama show that has anything to do with families are good fodder for writing your noble houses. And just as TV shows that appeal to the 40-plus wine mom demographic keep them hooked, you shall keep your audience hooked with the most thoughtless, inane, baseless drama you could ever devise. And that's why, through this noble house, we're going to raise our epic fantasy novel into the great heights possible with the writing style of a Hulu-exclusive $10,000 budget family drama. If all of the fantasy fans who came to our novel seeking a new Sanderson don't close the book with their primary emotion being a wish for death, mine or theirs, we aren't doing it right. So first, let's name our noble house. We want them to have a regal and wealthy sounding name. Ever wonder why the Stuarts are no longer the ruling dynasty of England? It's because of their name. There's an American NASCAR driver with the surname Stewart. Shut up, I know it's spelled differently. And if such a thing is possible, then the name cannot be for a noble house. That's why we need to look to the Germans and their House of Glucksburg, or should I say the House of Schleswig-Holstein-Sonderburg-Glucksburg, or some variant of that pronunciation I attempted, for inspiration, but even they do not have the majesty of the noble house we'll be making today. Meet Honorius Giganticus Johnson of the Picklesburg, Butenkrak, Horsenfahrt, Dummenhaus, Lickelspittel, Richengelden, Diamondhaven, Coin Collector, and Nobelsbergen, Furpeltwaren, Weinen Drinken, Snobbischholm, Arrogantentown, Vainenstein, and of Namensbergens. Just by their name alone, you can tell that this guy inhales peasants' tears and exhales solid gold coins, that he sits on a chair constantly held aloft by a half-dozen servants, that he doesn't know the name of anybody who works for him or lives with him, not even his wife's, and that he has a ruby ring for every farmer who's died of famine under his watch. He's the epitome of what a noble house is and should be, and no matter how intolerable he is, we will continue to center the plot on him and portray his greatest of struggles, that being not being wealthy enough to buy the sun, as being of equal or even greater tragic value than the pile of plague-ridden beggars crying for help outside his keep. We'll establish the other members of his immediate family soon, but first let's talk history. All noble houses have a history, detailed and heroic as to how they got their start. The problem with writing these, however, can be that in the beginning you might have to imply that there was some point at which this house's distant ancestors were poor, and poor is the antithetical to cool, and more importantly, antithetical to the wish fulfillment we're attempting to provide to our chronically unhappy readers. So this house was founded at first by Richus Massivus Richardson Picklesburg Butenkrak. He already had two surnames because he was already rich for reasons we will never explain. And yes, there is a direct correlation between those two things. Richus Massivus then went on to slay a dragon, no, 3 dragons, bare-handed, that lived in the caves below the hill on which he'd built his estate. They might have been bearded dragons, but that knowledge was lost over the generations. Then he built the estate and peasants started moving in of their own free will, happily submitting themselves to his overlordship. Despite high numbers of them being defenestrated over the years, they simply kept coming. Literally nothing has happened since then up until the story starts 500 years later, except for adding all the new names to the house. The story of Richus Massivus Richardson will be alluded to all the time. There will be tapestries of him hanging everywhere, and members of the family will constantly reference him. 500 years may be enough for 25 generations, but none of them have done anything important, and nobody will ever allude to anything they have done. It's not like noble houses were historically very unstable institutions that changed locations and allegiances all the time, after all. But now that we've written our complex dynastic history, we can move back to the modern day and the family of good old Honorius Giganticus Johnson. There's his wife, Honoria Giganticus Johnson. You might wonder why their names are so similar, and it's because she is both his sister, aunt, niece, cousin, second cousin, and ex-mother-in-law all at the same time, because the royal bloodline has had to stay pure after all. We're going to be making the Habsburgs look like runway models by comparison here, folks. Honoria has a little bell she can ring by her throne. Whenever she rings the bell, a peasant is executed so that they can auction off all of his stuff so that the kingdom can afford for her to buy another fur pelt from an almost and soon-to-be extinct species. Then there's the son, Giovanni Giganticus Johnson. We're going to make him particularly unique, a never-before-seen archetype. He's a young noble who doesn't know anything about the outside world, and this will be played for laughs. He will see mud on the streets after it rains and ask why the sky is crying because he's never been outside. Oh, you thought he wasn't going to understand what mud was? That might be true too, actually. He's only ever seen it tracked into the entrance of his estate by pre-executed people. So it doesn't really register to him. Looking down on the village, which looks as pictured, might as well be looking onto an alien planet for him. We will never humanize him, nor even play his naivete as something to be learned from. His viewing of everyone other than himself as literally inhuman is just a quirk to his personality, and not something that would ever affect his ability to rule when he takes the throne. Not that his father's been doing any better, though, anyway. Then there will be the daughter, Complaina Giganticus Johnson. She is named such because she is actually magically aware of the situation of the outside world despite living in the exact same circumstances as her brother. Though she too does not understand why the peasants spend all day scraping dirt and that makes green things come out of the ground, she does understand their struggle. Better than even the peasants themselves do, of course. There are two directions we can take her. If she won't be a POV character, then her semblance of a care, however naive or grossly misunderstanding of the plight of the common people, will be played as a negative trait influenced by her youth. How silly. She said that the peasantry should be allowed to have more than 1/2 of a meal per day. Or if she is the main POV character, we will play her as the true hero of the household who really understands the struggle everyone is going through. With compassion alone, she will show the nobles around her that starving people en masse is bad, actually. Then there'll be some collection of no-name serfs and servants who, much like the Dark Lord Darkennis's minions, sleep about 100 to a room and 10 to a bed. None of them will be characters because each will only be mentioned once. There will be a new one in every scene to demonstrate two things. Just how many servants the Pickelsberg, Butencrack, Horsenfard, Dummenhaus, Lickelspittel, Richengelden, Diamondhaven, Coin Collectorin, Nobelsberg, Furpeltwaren, Weindrinken, Snobbischholm, Aragontentown, Vainenstein, and of Namensbergens can afford to have, and also that the old ones get executed for minor mistakes like not placing teacups in the exact middle of their saucer. Every member of the family carries a tape measure with them at all times. And that is just plain justified. It goes without saying that our noble house needs to have a standard. Making a cool and unique flag for our noble house is like half the reason we're bothering with this stuff anyway. So we're going to choose a lion, which represents all of this house's good qualities. Strength, honesty, valiance, which all of them display in spades. You might wonder what makes this lion different from the 3,721 other houses in the Kingdom of Kingia that have a lion on their standard, but they all stole the idea from the rightful originators, the
Pickelsberg, Butencrack, Horsenfard, Dummenhaus, Lickelspittel, Richengelden, Diamondhaven, Coin Collector, Nobelsberg, Furpeltwaren, Weinen-Drinken, Snobbischholm, Aragontentown, Vainenstein, and of Namensbergens.
And that's why we're adding this flower to its front paw. As for colors, we've naturally chosen red and gold, the two least commonly chosen colors in all noble houses, so we can be particularly special. Now it's time to figure out their position in the complex political tangle of the Kingdom of Kingia. Now, unfortunately, we are beholden by that stupid evil concept of consistency not to make them the rulers of all Kingia, as that is an honor that belongs to King Kingston, King of the Kingdom of Kingia. So we'll make them the second most powerful house, just ahead of the von Backstabbendorfs. And now that we're named, we can describe the von Backstabbendorfs, because they are our rival house. Their colors are blood red and charcoal black, and their standard looks as such. This depicts their notorious bravery, honesty, and general good-natured attitude. They live on the Estate de Ville, a black castle on the top of a tall hill overlooking an equally dreary and dark-looking town. They provide some of the foremost advisors to King Kingston and spies too, and have been stalwart defenders of the kingdom for generations. But I have a secret for you, viewer. Something nobody will have ever guessed. The von Backstabbendorfs are secretly evil. Nobody will have seen it coming, and it will take our heroes by great surprise. Honorius Giganticus will not believe it. Honoria Giganticus will weep and wail at the tragedy of it. But it is Complaina, our plucky protagonist now, who will do something about it. But there's a twist, one never before seen. She's in love with Baden Boy Darkshadow von Backstabendorf, the eldest son of his house. He's got dark gray eyes and dark hair and dark clothes and bags under his eyes, but he's only got 1% body fat and is secretly both a vampire and a werewolf. It might then be a surprise to hear that he and Complaina would ever try to be together, but love does strange things sometimes. Their forbidden love, for Complaina is destined to marry Slobus Gutcrank of the Von Plot Devisians of far southern Kingia. Slobus is more than 20 years older than Complaina, and is probably also a mass murderer on top of that, though I guess that wouldn't actually make him much different from most of the other people in this story. And yet for some reason, the incredible age gap will not be the main reason this is portrayed as a bad thing, and instead she'll only be against it because he's ugly. However, the illicit love between Complaina and Baden Boy Darkshadow will be fulfilled when he sneaks away from the Deville estate one night to meet with her. This will be viewed as a straightforward transfer from evil to good, despite the
Picklesburg, Butencrack, Horsenfahrt, Dummenhaus, Wickelspittel, Richengelden, Diamond Haven, Coin Collector in Noblesburg, Furpelt Wearin, Wine and Drinken, Snobbischholm, Arrogantentown, Vainenstein, End of Namensbergens.
not actually being any better. The two of them then team up to take down the von Backstabendorfs, which they will get no assistance doing, despite the fact that the von Backstabendorfs are actively sabotaging the kingdom. The king just doesn't know what's going on, and he believes everything the head of that blasted evil house, a liar von Backstabendorf, says to him without ever giving it a second thought. Why is this the case? Because even when writing a story about noble houses, we need it to be an underdog story, where Complaina and Baden Boy are all that can stop the evil doings of a liar von Backstabendorf. But now that they're together, Baden Boy Darkshadow, at first portrayed as this potentially dangerous and maybe even morally compromised individual, will simply revert to a stock hero. But edgy. He will have no lasting qualities, traumas, or really anything from his time living at the estate Deville. This is because he did not actually have a life or sentience before entering Complaina's world, and is a stock character outside of his appearance. He is now fiercely devoted to her, and he will transform into his werepire, or vamp wolf self, to howl and then suck out all the blood of his enemies. Regardless of what happens, and of how many servants of House von Backstabendorf die, or even considering that one of their members literally defected to a different house without it even being a marriage or some such thing, will not affect the overall stability of the kingdom nor cause a diplomatic incident. Nobles have no obligations to anybody else, nor does anybody have any expectations nor precedents for how conflicts between them are meant to be resolved. It's not like feudalism's entire point is finding one of the few ways to wrangle a pre-modern society, lacking modern institutions into not destroying itself. There is also no massive chain of entangled relations between all of these houses that are themselves probably all one another's cousins, that could further escalate tensions. Each noble house is a monolith, after all. Well, unironically, this one probably is, considering how interrelated we made Honorius and Honoria. But as Complaina and Baden Boy march off to do battle with those no-good von Backstabendorfs, they will need some guards to slaughter en masse. As with all of these videos, I must remind you that mass murder is good so long as it's your protagonist doing it. Each of these guards of the von Backstabendorfs are not conscripted levies, mind, nor are they simply seeking out one of the only stable employment opportunities in their dreary land. They are the indisputably evil soldiers of the most evil house around, though only Complaina and Baden Boy know how evil still. Now, I could describe how our heroes win, but just trust me, they do, despite being outnumbered, outmanned, neither of them even being adults, not having any support from their families, or even much combat training. But all you need to know is the power of Baden Boy being a werewolf vampire and Complaina being the protagonist is enough to see them through. Once they win and defeat a liar von Backstabendorf, the rest of his house will throw down their weapons and say, "Ah man, I guess we lost," and never trouble anybody ever again. There will not be any surviving members of the house who will seek revenge one day, nor who might marry into other houses that are concerned with the
Picklesburg, Boot and Crack, Horse and Far, Dumb and Haas, Nickel Spittle, Rich and Geld and Diamond Tavern, Coin Collector and Noblesburg, Furpelt, Ware and Wine Drinking, Snobbish Home, Arrogant in Town, Vain and Steen, and of Namensbergens.
already the most powerful non-ruling house taking over the second most powerful one without any sort of legitimate claim for their land or deeds. In fact, the whole rest of the kingdom will celebrate what will definitely not be perceived from the outside as a blind power grab, and the king most of all will be extremely happy to find out that his level of influence is being directly challenged by two teenagers who destroyed one of the most powerful houses under his control for no legal reason. Remember, anyone who compares feudal systems to mafias has no idea what they're talking about. There is nothing comparable between an organization based on a strict hierarchy in which the guy at the top is constantly wrestling with those directly beneath him to both maintain their loyalty and yet not grant them enough power to actually challenge him, while exerting extreme force over any outside entity that challenges the stability of their system or threatens to shake the loyalty of any one of its members, and a mafia. And when Complaina and Baden Boy present proof of a liar being evil, everyone will celebrate even more. Nobody will disbelieve them, and nobody will be concerned that Complaina's ever-growing house will turn its eye towards them next. Because if they did, it would be a good thing. In fact, they might be so happy that King Kingston, king of the Kingdom of Kingia, will simply hand over his crown to Complaina for saving the entire kingdom. He won't, because I need him to remain king for other videos in this series, but he does want to do it. So Complaina and Baden Boy return home, where they are immediately married and the house gains a new name. Now they are the Picklesburg, Butenkrak, Horsenfar, Domenhaas, Likelspittel, Richengeld and Diamond Haven, Coin Collector and Noblesburg, Furpeltware and Wine Drinken, Snobbish Holm, Arrogantentown, Vainenstein, and of Namensbergens, von Backstabendorfs, and under their new rule, they will start to make reforms. Complaina will bring democracy to her realm, to which she will immediately be voted president and will win consecutive terms until she dies. She's changed the world so much. She'll also allow nobles to marry commoners or whoever they want, so everyone else can have their beautiful romances. She didn't do that herself, and wouldn't have, because Baden Boy is all 100% noble, but it's something she did to allow those stinky peasants to have a chance of social advancement. This will also not piss off the noble houses around her. She'll also abolish the raising of levies without the consent of the peasantry, taxes, crime, Mondays, and alcoholism. Her generosity is so overwhelming that these reforms are considered across the kingdom and across the whole world, until she dies at age 27 from health complications because she was more inbred than a pug. So was Baden Boy, and so romantically he dies the same day from gastrointestinal issues. The end. So hopefully this has shown you how to write a noble house the right way. Anyway, if this sounds like a place you want to be, we have a Discord if you want to hang out with my editor and I, and a Patreon if you're crazy enough to want it, where we post all our videos early. As we close out, I'd like to thank our patrons: Sonny, Isaac Parrott, Raymond Don, Sadako, Cavalier, Sazabi, Shieldmaid Fenya, and Michelle of the Knights of the Inner Circle. Vion and Jodion Void are knights, and Greer, TOW, Craig, Victoria Lauren, Noah, Saint Sir Nicholas, Josh, and Kelly Citron are loyal squires. And remember, noble houses are all about power imbalances. Deals are made in which one side has no real power to refuse, and certainly no power to back out of them once they've been committed to. Noble houses are what happens when that one part of your family you hate is granted power over thousands of people, and the ability to make hundreds of them come to your house armed with spears and bows. And yet, for all of that, noble houses are not uniquely evil in that way. Such things can be found in all sorts of places.